Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Before we get started, we will have a short video presentation.
I just need the host to enable screen sharing.
You have that now.
Thank you.
I'm excited. The real HU will be taking place in Washington this year. You know I am not going to pick sides. But my understanding is it's been 13 years since the Pirates lost. As one Hampton on my staff put it, the last time Howard beat Hampton, the Fugees were still together.
Good afternoon. Well, good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Rochelle Robinson, and I am co-chairman of the HBCU for Life Committee for the Epsilon Pi Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I am also a proud graduate of Wilberforce University, the first historically Black college founded by African Americans. We are so excited that you all are here today. We have an amazing panel of HBCU alumni, and before they share a little bit about their story, I want to share a little bit about mine. I attended a predominantly white institution when I graduated from school, and I had a good group of friends. And then I transferred to an HBCU, and it completely changed my entire life. I gained a big sloppy family. That's what we call it, because we're all one. So I have some lifelong friends that I truly love, and we are just together, even though we are in different states now. So that's a little bit about me, but I want to know, how familiar are you all with HBCUs? So we have a little poll that we're going to put up, and you should see it now. and just click on whether you are very familiar, you're somewhat familiar, or you really have no idea. And today you just want to learn more. Okay. All right, submit your answers. You don't have to answer the last two for right now. So as we go through this today, please, we want you to be engaged. So if you have any questions, see that little chat box down there? Make sure that you drop your questions there. Also, if you are calling in, you can send us an email. I believe that the email is thinkhbcu@gmail.com. So as we get started, we want you to turn your cameras off so that we can actually see everybody who is talking, okay? So I'm gonna pass it over to my co-chairman, Miss Carlene Taylor. Carlene? Carlene?
Okay. Good morning. Thank you, Rochelle. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Again, my name is Carlene Taylor, and I am also co-chairman of the Epsilon Pi Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated's HBCU for Life Committee. I am a proud HBCU graduate of the famous and historic Tuskegee University. Today, our goal is to provide facts about HBCUs and to demonstrate the value of attending such fine institutions of higher learning. Believe it or not, today in 2020, many people still ask the question if HBCUs are viable options for graduating seniors who seek higher education. The answer to that question is an unquestionable yes. Why? I'll answer that question by painting this picture. Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, Lionel Richie, Martin Luther King Jr., Thurgood Marshall, Oprah Winfrey, Debbie Allen, Felicia Rashad, Taraji P. Henson, Samuel L. Jackson, Spike Lee, Common, and Will Packer, just to name a few. All powerhouses, icons, all graduates or strong affiliates of HBCUs. HBCU graduates have left their mark and accomplishments on every walk of life and area of endeavor. It goes without saying that these United States would not be considered exceptional without the opportunities afforded by HBCUs. And after you hear from our dynamic panelists today and their amazing backgrounds, you'll get the point. The HBCU experience is not only about academics, but it also strives to provide a positive life experience and a true investment in you, all while constructing in you the tools necessary to compete on any level you so choose. How? By instilling in its students an overall sense of self, strenuous educational studies, and an overwhelming cocoon of love that intuitively teaches the student they are worthy of their place in this world. What it provides is a safe space to develop into your God-given purpose. One thing to note is that there are over 100 HBCUs throughout the United States. Just to make this personal, why did I attend an HBCU? I was introduced to HBCUs from a little girl. Both of my parents were HBCU graduates, and my father specifically is a graduate of Tuskegee. He was always very active in the Tuskegee local alumni club. The club members were very close, like family, and from a young age, I could see the love and passion they had for their university. I also recognized how accomplished these individuals were and looked up to them. Witnessing them convinced me that attending an HBCU is what I wanted for my college experience. It was the absolute best decision I could have made. I grew personally, made lifelong relationships, and left there well prepared for life and for the professional world that awaited me. And now, to move on with the program, I would like to introduce the president of Epsilon Pi Omega, Ms. Stephanie Smiley, who will bring greetings. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. And on behalf of the Epsilon Pi Omega chapter of AKA here in Southeast Queens, welcome to all of you on this Zoom event. Today, so many have taken to the streets in protest, which is appropriate. But you being here to learn about the historically Black college experience is also an appropriate form of protest. The need for HBCUs is as significant now as it ever was. As we seek ways to validate our rights to be here, even to exist here in these United States, what is provided by HBCUs to young people proves more and more invaluable. So as you listen to the presentations and discussions by this amazing panel today, don't think of it as just another thing about college. Hear it and think of it as a way to arm yourselves for what lies ahead, for the next protest, that next uprising, and the one after that, and the one after that, and the one after that. Because education really is our most potent weapon, and our minds continue to be terrible things to waste. So thank you all for being here and participating today, and I hope you get a lot out of this amazing presentation. Thank you all and welcome.
Thank you. And now I would like to introduce our moderator of the panel for this afternoon, Ms. Kelly Muse Kirkland. Kelly Muse Kirkland is a 1999 graduate of Morgan State University, where she majored in political science. After 1 year working with the Department of Juvenile Justice, Kelly attended the City University of New York New York School of Law, where she received her Juris Doctor in 2003. Presently, Kelly is the Bureau Chief of the Hate Crimes Bureau at the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. In her role as a prosecutor, she supervises other assistant district attorneys and investigates individuals who commit certain crimes based on a person's race, religion, gender, sexual identity, age, or disability. Kelly is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Epsilon Pi Omega chapter. And now I present to you Ms. Kelly Muse Kirkland.
Thank you, Carlene, for that excellent and wonderful introduction. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. I am so excited to be here to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, historically Black colleges and universities. I've wanted to attend an HBCU since the days of school days in a different world, which, you know, kids today don't really have access to those types of television programs. I often credit my success to my family, God, and of course, the illustrious Morgan State University, because when I went there, I was a different person. I was a shy, child who, just wasn't aware of what is going on or in the world. And leaving Morgan State University, I had the confidence to apply for any job, to walk into any boardroom, to know that I had the right to have a seat at every table. And I believe that that is what is most important about HBCUs, on top of having family. Most of my best friends, as you heard from Dr. Robinson, are from HBCUs because we established lifelong friendships to this day. My husband is a Morehouse graduate, and all of his friends also are Morehouse graduates. So today we are going to have a very candid and open conversation with some very, very prestigious HBCU alum who have vast backgrounds and experiences. And I believe that you are going to gain so much just from listening to them today. So because we all went to different HBCUs, it doesn't matter, we're still family. So we're all gonna have a pretty, laid back conversation about HBCUs today. So I want to introduce you to our first panelist, Bridget McAdoo, who is the Vice President of Corporate Strategy for World Wildlife Fund. She is a proud graduate of the illustrious Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, also known as FAMU. Hi, Bridget.
Hi, Kelly.
All right. Our next panelist is Terrence Banks. Terrence Banks is from, I don't know if it's the real HU, but one of the HUs, which is Hampton University. And he is a first officer, which means that he's a pilot from Republic Airways. And you don't really, every time you get on a plane, you might see, you look at the pilot, and if you see it's a Black pilot, you're really like amazed, but even more so when you find out that person's an HBCU grad. So welcome, Terrence. Do I see Terrence on my screen? Oh, there he is. Hi,
Yep.
Terrence.
Good morning, and yeah, we can go with the real HU.
Okay. All right. Of course, next we have a double HBCU alum. That's Dr. LaShawn Washington Batts. Dr. Washington Batts is a pharmacist. She first attended Morgan State University for her undergraduate degree, and then went on to receive her medical degree from Xavier, the outstanding Xavier University. So where is Dr. Washington Batts? There she is.
Right here. Good morning.
Good morning. Of course, we have Anthony Birch from the magnificent Morehouse University. Anthony is an attorney practicing out of Chicago, Illinois, and has a private practice, Birch and Associates. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning, all. Good morning.
And last but finally, and not least, we have Mark Branch, who is, believe it or not, they always say, I'm no rocket scientist, but he is a rocket scientist. He is an aerospace engineer, AKA a rocket scientist who works for NASA. And he is a graduate of Morgan State University. Welcome, Mark.
Good morning to everyone, and you, Kelly.
Okay, so I wanted to just get into the questions that we have. All right, so the first question is, why did you attend an HBCU? And if you had to do it again, would you? Bridget?
Absolutely. You know, I went to Florida A&M, the illustrious and incomparable Florida A&M on the highest of 7 hills. But I went to Florida A&M, and I actually had scholarships to Georgia Tech and Florida State already, and went to FAMU on a visit, and it was clear I was never going to leave. It was the best decision I ever made. And I went to graduate school at a PWI, and the difference is significant. I would go back over and over again. My brother is a graduate of an HBCU. I pushed my nieces, nephews, goddaughters, godsons to go to HBCUs. It's just an experience like no other. I am a firm believer that when you graduate from HBCU, you feel that you can do any and everything. There's never been an opportunity that hasn't presented itself that I haven't felt well suited for, because I think the HBCU experience sets you up for excellence.
Okay, excellent. Anthony, what about you?
Well, to start, Morehouse was selected for me. Always knew I was going to college. And in the 11th grade, speaking to my mother, Mommy, what college am I going to? You're going to Morehouse. Only school I applied to. And it was new for me in terms of the HBCU experience. Having said that, would I do it again? You know this, I have 4 daughters, and my money is only going to Spelman. Only going to Spelman. So I'm a strong advocate for all HBCUs, obviously, but you know, Morehouse and Spelman are the schools that my money would go to, or is going to. All of it's going there. But the reality of it is, college as a whole is the cocoon that prepares us for the rest of our lives. So just from a logical standpoint, why wouldn't you want your child, especially in America, to be in a place where they're filled with love, instilled with the confidence that allows them to do everything else. We have a brother that's a rocket scientist. I recall being at Morehouse and wanting to be a doctor, and some of my professors worked on the atomic bomb. You can't get that anyplace else. And when I say professors, they look like me. So these were experiences that I have that children need in college as you prepare yourself for the rest of your life.
Excellent. Mark.
So I attended Morgan State University for a couple of reasons. I had received partial scholarships from a few universities. My mom, she was an educator, God rest her soul, AKA now Ivy Beyond the Wall, most definitely. When we were in Greensboro, North Carolina, she taught at North Carolina A&T. And so I was familiar with A&T, but my father was an alumni from Morgan State University. And so I was a legacy there. And Morgan gave me a full scholarship, tuition, fees, room and board for 4 years. So I alleviated a lot of burden off of my parents. So that pretty much sealed the deal for me. And would I do it again? Most definitely. It was the best 4 years of my life.
All right. Terrence, what about you?
For me, I definitely knew I was always going to college. I just didn't know which one. So I'm definitely glad for my mother who allowed me to go on a HBCU college tour. So I went to Lincoln, Morehouse, BSU, applied to all of those, got into all of those. And then the reason why I chose Hampton is because they did have an aviation program, one of the few HBCUs that actually have an HBCU program. So once I figured that, I was like, oh, definitely got to go to Hampton. I went to the school day. They show out. They got the student center going, music loud, and all the students there look like you. I want to be professionals like you. So definitely glad that I went to Hampton. I'll definitely do it again.
Amen. Amen. That's amazing. And LaShawn? Specifically, I saved you for last because you went to two. So why did you choose the first, and then what made you decide to go on to the second?
Morgan, because I grew up in upstate New York and I wanted to be closer to my dad, and I to HBCUs from high school. So when I got into Morgan, that's why I chose Morgan. Best decision I ever made lifelong friends there. And I attended Xavier because I wanted to continue that legacy for myself. I didn't feel as though I wanted to deviate from going to a HBCU. So that's why I attended Xavier University in Louisiana, the College of Pharmacy.
Excellent, excellent. And I just wanted to iterate, every now and then I might chime in. Terrence said that he went on a HBCU tour. I too went on HBCU tours every year from freshman year on. Ironically, Morgan State was the very first stop on my very first HBCU tour. But if you are able to go on an HBCU tour, it opens up your mind and your world as to what's out there, what else exists. And you might see these HBCUs online, but nothing beats actually physically going down to the HBCUs and checking them out. So I encourage everybody, if you know of an HBCU tour, to by all means sign up to go to one. All right, so the next question is, sorry. In your opinion, what makes the HBCU experience different than the experience of an individual who attends a PWI? And a PWI is a predominantly white institution. Why an HBCU over PWI? Mark?
So for me, it was an easy answer. It's all about family, and it's just more close-knit at an HBCU, in my opinion. Even from just a pure educational standpoint, I believe the lecture halls are smaller. The ratio between the educator and the students is smaller, which means that you can have more of an interaction, in my opinion. with the teacher in your classes. And I felt that one of my classes, actually my favorite class at Morgan was electromagnetics, actually. And it was like 5 people in the class, and the interaction between the students and the teacher was wonderful. Just a lot of help, a lot of assistance. No one in this room, no one in this audience has achieved the success that they've had without somebody helping them along the way. And I got that in an HBCU.
Excellent.
And it meant the world to me.
Excellent. What about you, LaShawn?
I think the sense of community, coming from where I grew up, a lot of people, they say that you're an Oreo, you're black on the outside, but you're white on the inside. And when I got to Morgan, I felt completely enveloped by the culture. Everybody was very welcoming, and it was, compared to today, from when I went to Morgan, it's a completely different university. The buildings, they've done so much. They've had so much infrastructure, money infused into the university. So when I go to homecoming and stuff, I'm just in awe of how much Morgan has grown. When I was there, we were in the days of sitting in because we didn't have any hot water and things like that. So we learned early how to advocate for oneself. So it taught me how to be an advocate for not just myself, but others. And it was a really good community experience. And it taught me to have more confidence in myself as an African-American individual and be able to speak up for myself.
Excellent. Bridget?
The engineering school at Florida A&M is combined with Florida State. So I actually had classes at both, but it was such a significant difference when I would take a class at Florida State versus FAMU. And while Florida State, the way the tier system and the way the education system works against HBCUs, even though they might have had more of the better rooms or the better books, the professors and the experience was much better from Florida A&M. And the graduates were all coming out of Florida A&M, the ones who actually matriculated from the engineering school. But even as I look at it now, me having an undergrad degree from an HBCU, my husband graduated from a PWI, and his only sense of community is the fact that he has his fraternity and he's very active in his fraternity. Yet for me, I've lived in 12 cities and visited 44 countries. And every single country I've gone to, I found somebody from FAMU that greets me right when I get there and makes sure that I feel like I have a friend. Every single city I've lived in, every time I go someplace, the first line of communication is usually an alum. I don't have to know them. They just have to get a bird call from somebody that said, I heard a rattler has landed, and look out for me. And so my husband even commented on that. He said, I've never seen anything like it when it comes to how you guys look out for each other. And it doesn't even have to be a rattler. It can be anyone from an HBCU. We really just look out for each other because we understand that experience and that need to have that community.
That's excellent. I want to see your passport, by the way.
It's on pause for a second, but I'm.
What about you, Anthony?
I guess I came from the experience of growing up in New York as well as Chicago. All of my primary education were in schools that were 99% Black. So in terms of my experience going to Morehouse, it wasn't a big difference other than my professors looked like me, and I was exposed to a lot more of history that I wasn't taught in public school education. When I went to law school, I recall my first semester, first year of law school, sitting in a class and thinking to myself, this is the first time I'm in a class and I'm the only Black person. So from that experience, as well as my experience throughout law school, I know that Morehouse prepared me to be in that type of situation. I went to Morehouse relatively young. I had just turned 17. I was very immature. I can look back and now that I was immature at that point, but being in a nurturing environment with people that had investment in my success prepared me to go to law school. And in law school, I recall hanging out with the other students that looked like me. And the question, why would you go to Morehouse? What is it about that HBCU experience? There was one brother that was there, and I think he went to Cornell, and he paid me the greatest compliment. He said, and he was one of my main adversaries about whether or not you had a need to go to HBCUs in this day and age. And I went to law school in 2000, so 2000 conversation. But at the end of our first year, he said, I get it. And if I have a son, he's gonna go to Morehouse. It's just something that we have. It's a camaraderie that we have. It's the, in college, if we are nurturing our young, our children for their success, why wouldn't you want to put them in the most fertile ground where they're surrounded by other students that are like them, whether or not you're from the inner city, whether or not you grew up in an environment where you are one of a minority. You will find somebody that is like you. You'll find other Black students that maybe aren't into rap music. You'll find them. You'll find other teenagers that are into anime. My daughter's into anime. She's into a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily say identify as a young Black woman. But now that she's at Spelman, she's found her crew that are into the same things that she's into. And I think that's predominantly the difference. You find at a HBCU, there are more people like you that look just like you that you wouldn't necessarily have found.
It's
and
important
you build those lifelong relationships.
Right. It's important to note that we are not a monolith, right? It was people from upstate New York, downstate New York, the Caribbean, down south, the dirty south, Africa, all over at my HBCU. And there was a crew, everybody had a crew. So I agree with that. Terrence, what about you?
At Hampton University, I'd say, definitely like everybody was saying, the community that we have at a HBCU can't beat that. We have a lot of like-minded individuals who want to see you prosper, and then the professors really do care about you. And then the also thing is the history that you have on your campus, like things that happen on Hampton University's campus, the people that went there, graduated, you can be proud of, and definitely make you realize, this is a great place to be, and this is where education happens, and this is where you become great. And I think at a HBCU, you can definitely dig into that and be truly who you want to be in the community.
Thank you, Terrence.
Hey, Kelly, can I add one thing?
Yes.
It's
please.
like, honestly, at a PWI, almost everyone has a Black student union, but almost by default, an HBCU is a Black student union.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Powerful.
by default. And I think that's a powerful statement right there.
Right.
I just wanted to add that.
Well, piggybacking on your last statement and what Anthony said, I wanted to just touch really briefly, if we can, just about what's going on right now in our country. It's a bit sad. Well, it's not a bit sad, it's very sad. How would attending an HBCU be different from a PWI in dealing with what's going on right now in our country and what happened last night and the night before and the night before? Anthony?
I think the discussion changes. It's interesting, a lot of times when we ask the question, like the questions presented to the forum, why HBCU versus another school? No, I think the question is, why would you go to another school when you got an HBCU? Right? I mean, that's the question. So when we talk about our current events, the question isn't necessarily how do we interact in this particular system versus how do we change the system to interact with us, because we're worth the system changing to interact with us. So as an attorney, and the focus of my firm is really criminal defense, a lot of times the question that I ask is different than what my counterparts would be, and whether or not is what we're talking about fair to everyone, right? To my clients that most of the time look like me. And I have a knowledge base to know these are the questions that we should be asking. But in particular, what's going on now, when I was in college, that's when the Rodney King civil disobedience was going on. And I can recall talking to professors that had been there in the 60s when you had civil unrest then, and hearing their perspective and saying, this is what we did, this is what we should have done. Now, when you go out here and do what you're doing to let them know something needs to change, this is what you, so it was that institutional knowledge from people that look like you to say, this is how you affect the system. I'm not sure what the conversation would be justifying why you should go out. It's interesting. At Morehouse, I can't imagine somebody saying something like, why would you riot, or why would you do something? Listen, America is founded on civil disobedience, right? And that's just, it's not anything up for debate. That's what we're founded on, the Boston Tea Party. Right? When you had union or employment, when there was at the turn of the century, when you were dealing with income inequality, similar to what you have now, you had the masses of people saying, we're going to riot and we're going to tear things up so that we have more of an equal distribution. And it wasn't couched in the same way that it's being couched now, because let's be clear, what's going on right now isn't necessarily just about what happened to George Floyd. It's not just about that. It's about our whole system. And I think when you are at an HBCU, that's a conversation that we can have, and what our input is as a whole.
Listen, I thought I would be remiss to have this conversation about Black colleges and the history of Black colleges and what they mean to our community without bringing up that issue. So thank you for that. That was a very powerful statement. Does anybody else have anything to add to that before I move on to the next question?
Just one thing to add to that. The narrative, the conversation changes between, in this dealing with this issue between a PWI and an HBCU, because at an HBCU, we're more empathetic. At a PWI, I don't think that's the case. I think at that university, I think a wise man once said, he who knows not and knows not that he knows not is a fool. Teach him. We have the opportunity to teach him, but there's been crazy learning moments throughout the history of this country, but some people don't want to get it because they can't put themselves in our shoes. Yeah. When we see George Floyd, a lot of Black men, such as myself, see ourselves. We can immediately empathize with the situation. Arbery, same with every Black man that you've seen an atrocity committed against, we can relate to that easily. And so the conversation is more heartfelt at an HBCU than it is anywhere else, because some people just don't get it.
They don't. And the HBCU is a safe space. I believe in your classroom, in your dorms, in the cafeteria, these conversations are being had without judgment. And everybody doesn't even think amongst us. You know what I mean? We are, like I said earlier, we're not a monolith, but it's good to be able to have the conversation.
Yeah.
You know.
Agree.
So research suggests that there are two factors that contribute to poor performance in college. The first is homesickness, and the second is academic preparedness. Do you feel that either of those issues applied to you when you went to your HBCU? And if so, how did you cope or deal with them? Homesickness and academic preparedness. Terrence? He's like, oh boy. Where are you from? Where are you from?
I'm from Queens, Southeast Queens, Laurelton. So homesickness.
Hampton is in?
It's in Virginia. So yeah, I was about 7-hour drive away from home, from school. But with me, homesickness wasn't really a big deal. I was always, summertime, I was going to go-away camp in New Jersey, and I was fine. You know, kids were like getting homesick, trying to run back home, but I was okay with that. But definitely being prepared. I went to pre-college for Hampton University. You have a program called pre-college where you can earn credits towards your degree, you know, during the summer, and you're working towards your degree early. So I was definitely Hampton definitely prepares you just getting matriculated into going to classes and getting your time management down and figuring out what kind of work you need to do and how much studying that you got to do to get those good grades in your class. But Hampton University definitely prepares you. They have tutoring classes available if you need it. The resources are definitely out there to help you. High school wise, I think I was prepared for college because my mother, again, also would put me in summer programs that would focus on mathematics and space exploration and things like that. So definitely going to colleges that prepare you for college programs and earn credits are definitely what I suggest as well.
So you felt like going to those types of programs in the summertime helped you with math and things like that. What about a student who doesn't have access to, such programs? What would your advice be to them?
Basically, just we got Google. Just research. Just
we did not have. I don't know about you. I did not have Google.
But yeah, just be more self-reliant. Google. If you have questions, there are resources out there. Your local library. Definitely go to your library. They have resources. To further educate yourself. So definitely, there's resources out there, I believe.
Anybody else want to speak to that? Okay.
Say this, Kelly. When I started Florida A&M, it was already one of the toughest schools to get into, and that's not even just being an HBCU. My freshman and sophomore year, we were Time Magazine's #1 university in the nation. And that's not just about HBCUs, that's just nation, across, we were over Harvard, over any other school, we were #1. We had the most graduates of Rhodes Scholars. So when I, came into FAM, I felt like this family because I came in on an academic scholarship, but I also knew that everyone coming in at the same time as me also were coming in with these very strong backgrounds and from high school. So it was, I think you kind of felt that you needed to be prepared to join that class. And so when I tell students now, when I see them at FAM, I tell them there's a history and a legacy where you have graduates like Will Packer and Keisha Lance Bottoms and Common from FAMU, that we have a history of excellence that needs to be upheld. And so I'm proud to see the university trying to, and the administration making sure that we get back to where we were, to be in that school that is #1 in the nation, and also the #1 school to have graduates with Rhodes Scholars. So I think when people think about HBCU and PWIs, they think our education is second to theirs. And I'm here to say, no, our education is beyond comparable to any other university out there. And that includes Harvard, Yale, or any other Ivy League school.
Excellent.
So,
excellent.
Kelly, if I can just add on to that.
Yeah, you do have a different experience. I agree with that. Like, I wish I would have.
Can you please mute your phone? Thank you.
So, so I went to high school in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I went to Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. Despite the fact that my dad lived in Baltimore, I was away from home, but at Morgan, I felt at home. So homesickness didn't affect me because I felt at home, because I was around people who looked like me. I was around people who looked out for me and who cared for me. It was a family experience. And to this day, I have friends going back 30 some odd years to my freshman year, and we're still good friends. We don't have to talk to each other for 5-6 years, but you call me up, and I just had a conversation like this with my friend the other day, talked for an hour, hadn't talked to him in 20 years, but it was like that. So, and as far as academic preparedness, my high school in Greensboro, North Carolina was 90-something% Black. And it was the first high school in the county for Blacks in Jim Crow South. And so my high school had a history of making sure that we were prepared. So I graduated, I was in the National Honor Society, and I graduated with honors and got a full scholarship to Morgan State. And so, so I was prepared. And so, and I felt at home, though I was away from home, if you feel me.
I do.
All right.
What do you guys
I
think?
guess I want to add in, I want to chime in. Wasn't prepared to go to, academically, I wasn't prepared. When I was accepted in the Morehouse, I was accepted on academic probation. I was immature. In terms of homesickness, no, absolutely not. I had a great time. I had a real good time at Morehouse. Put me on the 5-year plan. But that's important because I had professors that saw my potential. I was surrounded by brothers that helped me, older classmates that were, a few years older than me that said, nah, this is how you have to study. And academically, I don't think that I was prepared. I had to take all remedial classes my first semester. But the professors didn't say or did not look at me as though you couldn't learn or you're not supposed to be here. And I can recall, and I can give you instances growing up in public schools where I can recall teachers telling me, this is what you're going to do. I can recall when I spoke with my high school advisor about which college I was going to, and her telling me, well, why would you want to go to that school?
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, by the time I went to law school, I was at the top of the class, and I did very well academically in law school. And I credit that to learning how to learn while I was at Morehouse, without it ever being a question of whether or not I should be or not be there, because I felt as though the professors had a vested interest in me. So academically, I probably could have been better prepared going to Morehouse, but going to a HBCU, I know that it's not a question of the people that are there invested in the people that go there and are matriculating there.
They care about what happens to us, right? They want to see us succeed. When we win, when one of us wins, the entire school wins, right? When one HBCU grad wins, I'm HBCU love all day. It means a lot.
Hey, Kelly.
Yes.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No.
To chime in on this question.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't homesick because my father was in Maryland, so I was 45 minutes from him. I too had to take some remedial classes to get myself together while I was at Morgan. But while I was there, I became a part of the community because I was a resident assistant, and that allowed me to be able to guide the freshmen and things that were coming in and give them instruction and kind of help them along and let them know the different places to get help and who to see if they had questions and things like that. So I became a part of the Morgan State University community to help those that are matriculating through. So I think that was beneficial. And that again helped instill in me the sense of community and helping other people and how important it is to sometimes step outside of yourself and be able to assist other people and be of benefit to other people. And I think that's one of the great things about being African American, because people see us in one light and we're not in one light. We're very multidimensional. We're able to do a multitude of things, but the one thing that we do more than anything else is we always reach out to help other people. And that's what's not publicized. People don't get to really see what we do in our individual communities where we live, or our church communities, because people, that's not what they see. We just do what we do, and that's what we do.
Right. Okay. So my next question is, what do you say to those individuals who say that they can't send their kids to HBCUs because they're party schools, or that their kids won't graduate in 4 years because they're party schools, or they won't get anything done because, the environment is going to be too much for them? What do you say about that?
Well, if I can say something, you said I'm a rocket scientist, but you also know that I'm a DJ.
Yes, you are. DJ scientist.
A world-class DJ, NFL events, NBA. I party.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm gonna keep it real. I appreciate hearing LaShawn and Brother Anthony, because both of their stories, one word came up in my mind. It was perseverance. Both of you persevered, and I'm proud of you both. With me, like I said, I got a scholarship, four-year scholarship, but when I partied a little bit too much in my first 2 years, and when I pledged, I was supposed to maintain a 3.0. When I pledged, I had a 2.0, barely. So I was on academic probation. And so thankfully, thank God, Morgan gave me a chance over the summer to pull my grades up. But that entailed me putting away my turntables for the rest of my tenure at Morgan. I literally packed them away. I went to parties, but I didn't DJ parties like I used to in my first 2 years. And so, and I accomplished great things. I through Morgan's career development department, it helped me get my job at NASA before I graduated. So before I got the degree and walked across stage, they okayed me back in like February. So I had a job. I walked into a job, and that was because I stopped partying. It was if you want to call it a party school or not, Morgan, and I believe all HBCUs are focused on educating their students. And they'll tell you, you go, what's the first thing they said at freshman orientation? Look to your left, look to your right. That person might not be there in 4 years when you graduate. Those are the people who partied and didn't persevere and keep their grades to where they needed to be. And so that's the school is one thing, but you are part of the equation as well.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything to add to that?
Kelly, I think
Add to that.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So for me, Morgan had his share of parties, I will admit, and I attended them, and it took me a little bit longer to get out, because right now on average it takes about 4.5 years for people to get out of school if they're not completely focused, and it took me 5, and I can admit I was a little lazy, but once I did graduate and I walked out into the work world, and I realized that in order to be able to maintain and take care of a family that I wanted to have one day, I had to make some changes, and I had to make some choices, some hard choices. And I needed to figure out what I wanted to do and be dedicated to that aspect. Now, Morgan taught me a lot of things, but when I started working, it taught me something else, that if you don't get yourself together, then you're not gonna make no money. You have to be dedicated and figure out what it is that you wanna do, because you'll end up always making a lot of money for someone else. I worked at Johns Hopkins doing research, and the person that was writing the grants was the person that was getting all the money. And then that's when I decided that I was like, I don't wanna be doing lab bench work for the rest of my life, because the ability to make money is not gonna be there. So I was determined to figure out a career that would afford me the opportunity to take care of my family and push me further than I have been pushed myself. So that's what made me go into pharmacy and pursue that career, because the opportunity to make money is there, the opportunity to be able to take care of my family and live well and just do something completely different. I mean, I had a biology degree, and then I go into chemistry. I hated chemistry. I really did. And I didn't realize when I went to pharmacy school that all that was chemistry. So again, I had to elevate my thought process to understand that now I'm paying for this out of my pocket. So I have to focus.
Right.
That will definitely make you readjust your priorities quickly to understand that you paying for this. So there was no partying for me at Xavier. I did hang out. I did go to Mardi Gras and stuff, but I was studying because I wanted to get up out of there in 4 years, and that's what I did. So I think that, you have to be able to balance what it is you're going to do. Part of the HBCU experience is attending some of those parties, going and do things with your friends, but you need to surround yourself with a group of friends that will be like, all right, we're going for this long. This is what we're going to do. And then we're going to go back to the room and we're going to study because we got this test coming up. You have to be surrounded with people that have like minds like you do to know that this is serious. Yes, I'm here. It's a college experience. I want to experience life, but I got to get out of here.
You're right. I mean, at Morgan, they had cheese buses that would take you to every party. So you would just get on the bus and go to the club. And I went to the party. I went to a party Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that's just what I did. But I was also up at 8 a.m. for class. And that was because for me, I knew I had to graduate in 4 years because I'm a first generation college student. My parents didn't have it, right? There was no money. I was every little scholarship. If it was a $500 scholarship, $1,000 scholarship, I was applying for it. They didn't have it. So there was no extra year to play around. You know what I mean? So that was just a little bit about my story. I see, Bridget, you've unmuted yourself. You have something to add?
Oh, no, look, I'm not going to pretend like Tallahassee's not a party city. It is. When you have Florida State and Florida A&M and only a mile apart and some railroad tracks separating you, there's going to be a lot of foolery that happens in the city. However, it's also the capital. So when school is not in during the summer and you sit there and you realize that that city is quite depressing, you realize you really want to get out of there and graduate and you don't want to get left behind. So it's not like an Atlanta or DC where you can, still feel the vibrancy of the city when school is not in. Tallahassee is one of those cities where if you're not in school, you really need to get up out of there. And that alone was one of those things that really pushed us to kind of be like, we saw those people who took their time and was not taking their education seriously, sitting around Tallahassee after 4 or 5 years. And you start to feel bad for them, like, gotta be more to life for you. So, there has to, it was just even the thought of not being able to move on to those other exciting things in life. And to LaShawn's point, you have to, throughout life, and as you mature, the ability and the need to find people in your life that you are equally yoked with is a necessity.
Yeah.
And you learn it and you cut your teeth on it in college because those same people who are going to help you be a highly functioning, sleep-deprived person and e-math at 7 a.m. in the morning, and make sure you make it to class. Those are the people you need to make sure you have in your life and not those who are trying to get you to skip class because the party experience is inevitable. And that has nothing to do with HBCU. That is just part of the college experience. And how much of it you partake in is an individual choice, but make sure you surround yourself with people who will help you thrive and survive and remember the reason why you're there. And I think, for me, and I tell anyone that I'm reaching out to is that whole thought of being equally yoked. You need to start thinking about that very young, because once you start really making sure that who you surround yourself with matches your values and your reasons for living and everything you want out of life young, it will carry its way with you when you're older, and you will save yourself a lot of issues.
Yeah. So I recall being walking into a class one day, and my professor, sat down, had class, and my professor ended class he's like, I want to stop class about 15 minutes early just to talk about Kelly Muse. That's me. She walks into my class late every day. And I cannot figure out why she walks into my class late every day. He goes on, and I was so embarrassed. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it, because I was late to his class almost every day. And let me tell you, after that, I have never been late to a class or really to anything that's work related or anything of that nature. I mean, he tore me up that day. And I remember he had such a profound impact on me that I wrote a letter to him thanking him and everything for, everything that he did for me. He actually passed away maybe about 3 weeks ago. So that was sad for the Morgan community. But I say this to ask you, is there an example of a professor that you had that had a meaningful impact on your life? Like, you can just think about an experience or something that a professor said or something that was profound in your life at an HBCU. Terrence?
For me, we would meet at Ogden Hall, and we definitely had a saying is to be on time is to be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late, and to be late is unacceptable. So that just sticks in your head. Every meeting that you go to, you got to be on time. You gotta be on your P's and Q's, and you got to be ready to, get your work done. The HBCUs definitely taught me to be professional. Going into the workforce, you can't be regular. You have to go above and beyond to what other people have to be. So definitely going to HBCU taught me that. Definitely be on your P's and Q's and be ready to put in the work.
Anybody else? Profound experience from a professor?
I have one. It's a little bit different because it's after I had matriculated at Morehouse. So I'm applying to go to law school, and you need a college professor recommendation. So the head of the department for psychology, and I graduated with a psychology degree, I write him and I request a letter of recommendation. His response to me, he remembers me, his response to me was, Anthony, I'm looking at your grades, and I do remember you when you attended here. There's nothing that suggests you're going to be successful in law school, and I don't know whether or not I can put my name on a letter of recommendation for you.
Wow.
Got another dean of students to write me a letter of recommendation, but he was right. And what I recall from him and some of the lessons that I learned from a lot, you don't have to lie. And it's not going to be, I'm going to give you a pass because, you might get into law school. Now, when I graduated law school, I definitely sent him a copy of my degree. But it was that level of, I would say, realness that I got throughout Morehouse, that it wasn't, I'm not going to coddle you. You are supposed to be here, but you being here, there's something that is demanded of you. There is an excellence that is expected of you as you become a Morehouse man. So I would say, there is something with regards to the professors that are invested in you and demand excellence from you. And I got that throughout my matriculation in Morehouse.
So Kelly, for me, there was just one professor that sticks out to me. It was Dr. Oliver. He was head of the physics department. When I got to Morgan, I had an engineering scholarship. So my major was electrical engineering. But Dr. Oliver wooed me over to the physics department and said that I could graduate in 4 years with 2 degrees. So sounded good to me. And that's what I did. 4 years, I walked across the stage and I had a degree in physics and a degree in engineering physics. And so that worked for me. I just wanted to, so that one professor, it didn't do anything not to get me hired at NASA. It was actually very attractive to NASA, those 2 degrees. And
Wow.
I'm still there after 30 years.
30 years at NASA.
One of the most stable brothers you ever meet.
So I'm sorry, LaShawn?
Yeah, for me, it was Dr. McDade Bay, who taught the Black diaspora. And that it opened my eyes to see just how vast our experience as African Americans and Africans is across the world, and just his radicalness, because he was very radical. He really spoke from his heart, and he was very passionate about our experience in school and us getting the most experience, and us understanding where we come from and who we are and whose we are, and whose shoulders and stuff we stood on to get to where we are. So that had a profound impact on me while I was at Morgan.
You always got to think about the shoulders you're standing on. I second that. Let me ask you guys, do you think that attending an HBCU impacted your ability to get a job? Meaning, did prospective employers look at your resume favorably, or did they just automatically put it to the side or not even give you a chance because you went to an HBCU?
I'm happy. I I think they're, you know, coming from FAMU and some of the other institutions, whether it's Spelman or Morehouse, Howard, Hampton. I think some universities get known or or are known more through the non-melanated atmosphere than others, right? So for me, it was funny to see how many people not so much knew exactly about FAMU, but they knew about our band. So they're like, oh, I've heard of your band. And that was a way for them to start a conversation. But it has never been a hindrance for me. And when I first graduated, I thought I was going to have to say that my degree is from the Florida A&M and Florida State College of Engineering. But I never had to do that. It was never a hindrance. It's actually been quite a positive for me. And it's something that I use as a unique descriptor for myself to say I am a graduate from an HBCU. Because if I look at my career, you know, there's not many people from PWI who can say they've had the pivots and the progression in their career than people who come out of HBCUs. So while it might seem daunting at first to figure out how do you want to set yourself up, one of the suggestions I have is to work with your career center to help build up your resume, to help do some mock interviews. If you're, especially like if you're a business school or anything like that, or engineering school, attend your NSBE conferences or your Black MBA conferences, you know, utilize and leverage the resources that are out there that we've created to be those safe spaces for Black students and for HBCUs, and use them to help make sure that you're ready for those moments. And please, please, please make sure that you get some internships. So while you're in university and you go to your school, talk to your professors and ask them about the opportunities to intern, because those internships really do help set you apart, and it helps to tell the story when you don't have to.
I fully agree with that. What looked attractive in my bid to work at NASA was my internship that I got through the physics department at Morgan State. I worked at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, and that prepared me. So she's right. But one thing that's vitally important is the school that you're trying to attend accredited? And if it's accredited, no matter if it's a PWI or HBCU, you can go anywhere in the world, because that accreditation means that your school has set the standards for you to be competitive against anybody in the world. And so make sure that your school is accredited, and you should not have a problem. So I work besides people who went to Stanford's, MIT's, Cal Berkeley's, Caltech's, Georgia Tech's, RPI, you name it. And I'm right there too, Morgan State University. And I have the same credentials that they do. And nobody can say, if I couldn't stand the test and stand toe to toe with those cats, I wouldn't have been there for 3 decades and loving it and having a stellar performance record. So that's all I had to add for that.
Thank you. That's important. So with that being said, what about people who say that HBCUs don't prepare you for the real world? What do you mean? You're going to go to classes with all these Black kids, and you're going to have professors that are Black? You're not going to get a job where everybody's only Black and your boss is not always going to be Black. What do you say to people who say that, who believe that?
Well, a couple things. I'm going to chime in on this one. Going back also to the question that was just asked. Owning my own firm, I hire who I want to hire, and I'm able to make hiring decisions. But prior to that, in working in corporate America, every employment opportunity that I received was because of somebody that went to a HBCU. So let's be clear on what it means when you see that resume that says Morehouse, that says FAMU, that says any of the other HBCUs that are out there. Are you going to look at that one a little bit different? I did. And when I'm hiring people now, I have a young man that's interning with me this summer that went to Morehouse. And my first conversation with him was, listen, you got the internship. That's not even a question. But let me just tell you what I'm going to expect from you. So to answer specifically your question that Black schools don't prepare you, listen, college is about preparing you, but not only preparing you, giving you the confidence to do everything else that you need to do when you're at NASA. so that you know that while you're at NASA and I have a degree that says Morgan, I know that I'm prepared and I have the confidence to say that I'm prepared. When we talk about Stanford, when we talk about Yale, and when we talk about MIT, basically what you're talking about is a network of people that are looking at resumes and people that went to their school and saying, I'm going to give you a little bit of an advantage. And that's really all that we're talking about, because going to a Black school, your professors did everything that their counterparts in their time period did. And that's why I brought up working on the atomic bomb. There's not anybody in any profession that can say there's not somebody that went to a HBCU didn't do or isn't currently doing now. So it absolutely prepares you. It gives you the confidence and it instills the excellence in you to do any job in America. Having said that, in terms of whether or not it prepares you in college experience as a whole, there really is no different. Any school that you go to, there's going to be a party lifestyle. So again, it goes back to what is the question? It's not the question is, does it prepare? Look, college as a whole and me having college age students, it's not real life. They don't have to pay any bills. I'm still paying bills. I'm still taking care of them. But I know that they're in a situation where they're surrounded by people, where somebody commented, they're able to find their tribe. They're able to be in a situation where no one is questioning their value, but what they're saying is, this is your value. Now go out and be excellent. And as a parent, that's my dream, be better than me.
Speaking of your children, is Blanca around?
Blanca is somewhere on here. I did see her name earlier. She woke up early today, because you know,
okay.
college students.
I wanted to, for a second, bring in Blanca.
There she is.
Anthony's daughter. Hello. Hi, Blanca.
Hi.
Blanca, what are you, a rising junior?
Yes.
A rising junior at the Spelman University. I was hoping you could just, speak to the children and their parents real quick, just to give a little bit of information about, your current experience.
I guess I'll start with my freshman year. It was pretty rough. I was not in a good place at the end of the year. I was really all over the place. But by my sophomore year, I had found a group to hang out with. We have an innovation lab on campus where I can be creative and interact with people who have similar interests and want to see me succeed in what I want to do. And from there, I was like, okay, even though my freshman year was a flop and I don't really know what I want to do, I know these people will support me and help me with the ventures that I want to work with. So from there, I started an entrepreneurship club on Spelman's campus.
You started?
Yes. So we're still doing programming this summer. So tomorrow we have a speaker coming in on a Zoom session, and she's going to talk about her experience as an entrepreneur. And we're going to be doing that all throughout the summer. So Spelman students can know more about entrepreneurship, because we don't, I think it would be nice to know a little bit more about starting your own business, because I think even now with the pandemic that we're going through, people are seeing that you can't just rely on one job. To have another source of income or have something that's your own that nobody can take from you. And you can just say, this is mine, and be proud of it. I think that's important. And so with this club, that's what we're trying to do. And I've met some great alum. I've met a lot of great people on campus and throughout the AUC who have inspired me to take the next steps in that for me.
Well, you know that we're also very proud of you. I've seen you grow from freshman year to now, because I remember you were a little, like you said, all over the place, just because you didn't find your friends yet. But now you found your crew, right? Your tribe. And all of you together are amazing. What is your, and I want to also mention another thing. You do something a little different in the summers as well, right?
Yes. So previously, I would help out my mom at local elementary schools with summer school programs. I like working with kids. But this summer, I am writing a children's book that I'm working on finishing and getting published. So that's what I'm doing this summer. I'm working to hear back from an internship with Venture for America, and I'm running my club this summer. So, yeah.
There was Japan. Did you go to study somewhere?
Oh, last year I studied abroad in Japan. We were there for a month, and we went to Josai International University, and that was just an amazing experience. I was like, I'm definitely coming back. Y'all, this isn't the last you've seen of me. So with that, I know that I want to have a career where I can travel and interact with different people and educate them about Black culture, because like my father said earlier, I like anime, and I watch a lot of anime, and the way that they portray Black people, in my opinion, it's like, I know you haven't interacted with Black people, because that's just not what we do. And I would like to be able to, you know, show them that there's another side to Black people than what you see on TV, and hopefully educate children here about different cultures so that they have a broader view of the world.
Thank you, Blanca. Love you so much. So super proud of you. Thank you for sharing your experiences.
Can I say something, Kelly, very quickly? Because Blanca's story is, I love to hear it. I love to see our queens coming into their fruition and just experiencing life, and the fact that she's been able to experience other cultures. But what I think is also very paramount about this panel is the careers that people have. There's nothing that hurt me more as I would move through my career than to hear young kids say that I've never seen a Black engineer, or I've never seen a Black pilot, or a Black pharmacist, or a Black lawyer. And for me, I'm a Black conservation executive, and most people, I'm only 0.5% of my whole field. And I just want our kids to know that there is no prescriptive path that you need to take and to be successful in your career. There are pilots, and there are engineers, and there are aerospace scientists, and there are lawyers and pharmacists, and there are people who save the environment that look like us, and they don't have to have any type of prescriptive stereotype to what that looks like or what success looks like. And I want them to know that there are careers that are not what you see on TV, that are still meaningful and impactful and that change the world. So whether it's anime or whether it's the environment, I want our kids to understand that the world is theirs to explore, and that you just want to make sure you interact with as many people as possible so that you can see that there's so many opportunities out here for you. I would have never known I was going to be doing what I do now when I went into engineering school. But I stepped out on faith, and God has ordered my steps, and I've been extremely blessed to be able to experience extremely different pivots in my career, because I, one, had faith, two, I had faith not only in God, my family, but I also have faith that I was prepared because of what FAMU put into me to take on all these different things. So I hope that they see this panel, they hear Blanca, and they realize that there is no one path for us.
Yeah, man, it's so important what Bridget just said. It strikes to the importance of why we, everybody on this panel and our like-minded peers, need to go back and reach out into the communities and do more outreach. Because I've gone into communities, especially like in Baltimore and in DC and in PG County especially, where the kids that I've interacted with have not been outside of a 5-mile radius of where they live. So they don't know that they could be an engineer. They don't know that they could be a lawyer. They don't know that they could be this or that. because they haven't been exposed to it. But that's why we have to reach back. And I got a beautiful opportunity because I was a 4-time guest DJ on Rap City in the basement with Big Tigger. And I actually, at the time, got to pitch a NASA program called SHARP. It was a summer high school apprenticeship research program. It was big. And so normally, cats who wouldn't have seen that message on a forum like Rap City saw that. So I got a lot of calls that I inspired them to reach out to their cousin, their little brothers, their little sisters, and to share that they could do this. You see that guy doing this, but he's actually a DJ too, but he's also a rocket scientist too. You can do anything you put your mind to. That's the point. And so, I do a lot of STEM outreach, but I've actually incorporated the A into it and made it STEAM, because that arts is the bridge that attracts our people, because there's science in the music, there's science in the dance, there's science in the artwork and math. All that stuff is wrapped up in it. And we have to bring that message to them. And so I just encourage everybody to do more outreach. I'm doing a lot more outreach virtually, where I've done sessions with classes from my office in Greenbelt, Maryland. I've done sessions with cats in Atlanta and at FAMU. I've gone to FAMU to do some STEM outreach and virtually. There's a lot of things that we can do to reach back to these kids to show them the light, because you see what's going on right now in this pandemic, where we had stay-at-home orders and a lot of people are working from home remotely. Right. Think about it. Everything is still moving forward. So this is maybe a drill for the future that's going to have less people in the workforce. So if we don't get our kids attracted to careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, they're going to fall behind, because I keep telling them now, they have robots that can flip burgers. Yeah. Okay, they have robots that can mop floors. Those menial, not to look, they sound condescending, but those types of jobs are not going to be available. So you have to become technically savvy moving into this the future, because the divide, the gap between the technical divide is getting broader, getting wider. So just had to.
Thank you, Mark. That was very important, and I couldn't agree with you more. It's time to move on to the questions that are in the chat. So anybody can answer these questions. Did you feel as though, Tangela is asking, did you feel as though you had to educate people, educate employers about HBCUs?
This is LaShawn. I didn't feel as though I had to do that once I finished with pharmacy school, because Xavier is known to produce a significant amount of pharmacists, African-American pharmacists. I was able to do 2 residencies to get better prepared to go out into the workforce. And after my last residency, I actually moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I taught at the University of New Mexico, the College of Pharmacy there, for 2 years before I moved back to the East Coast. So I didn't have to explain where I went to school. I think the thing is that once you obtain that position or you get that job, it's important that you stay focused and you do what you're supposed to do, the demands of that position, so that there's never a question for somebody coming behind you that went to the school that you went to, so that you leave a legacy that says, oh, okay, well, I've had somebody that went to Xavier or FAMU or Morehouse, and I know the type of job that they're going to do. So I don't have any more questions about having somebody that's going to come from an HBCU, because I know the level of work they're going to do. So I think that it's important to make sure that if you're the first to come through the door, that you make sure that the door stays open for other people that are like you to come through. And you don't mess up. You make sure that you're on time, Kelly, that you're on time every day.
Yes.
And that you're doing what you're supposed to do while you're at work, and that is your focus, and you stay focused, and you leave a legacy of, you know what, I would hire her back. And that's just for anybody, not just for us, but for any job that you do. You want to make sure that you do what you're supposed to do, so that if you ever need to come back, that they will take you back over our.
Amen.
Yeah, I didn't have to explain myself to any job opportunity as well. So, Hampton prepared me. I built my resume. I had an internship with NASA when I was at Hampton. I had an internship with United Airlines when I was also at Hampton. Actually, the pilot recruiter for United Airways is a Hampton University graduate. So we have the HBCU network is amazing. Like, we have people up in higher echelon that can get you where you need to be. So I did not have to explain myself, or because my resume spoke for itself. Like,
Excellent. Excellent. Does anyone have any advice or tips for students and parents today that you wish your parents knew back in the day, or back when you were applying for college, when you were in high school or middle school? Any advice?
One thing I mentioned earlier is make use of your school's career development office or department. I know Morgan had one. I'm sure that there's one at all of these schools that people went to, but I'm not sure. But if there is a career development office, seek that out early. They help you learn how to write resumes. They help you do mock interviews, so you'll be prepared with the questions that you may encounter from these major corporations who come to recruit at your school. And actually, Morgan didn't allow you to interview with these schools unless you went through these little mock interviews and mock resume writing courses, if you will. And so I love Morgan State, man. It prepared me quite well, and I'm proud of my school. And I never had a problem with anybody questioning that where I went to school. Some people hadn't heard of it, but I let them know straight up.
Well, what about high school? Is there something that these parents can do to prepare their kids for high school? Something that you wish that your parents had done differently?
I think also, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mark.
No, it's fine.
I think that the summer jobs that some of the students get during the summer, if they can kind of find jobs that kind of gear towards what it is that they want to do in the future, that would be helpful. If there's internships, there might be things that are not paid, but it gives them the opportunity to go shadow somebody. Anything that's going to give them the opportunity to have the exposure to the job or the career field that they want to go into. Even if it's 2 weeks, you never know. 2 weeks can have a profound effect on somebody and can change the trajectory of their life if they're just exposed to things. There's a lot of the students that don't get exposed, like Marcus said earlier, they haven't been out of their 5-mile radius. And it's the exposure that allows them to have their eyes open so that they can see that the world is vast and there's a lot of different careers. And some students go on to make their own careers, make their own jobs, make their own line of income. So just make sure that your child is exposed. And I know that's easier said than done because there's some areas that may not have the different information fused into the area where you live, but just seek it out. If you know somebody that lives in another state, they may have information. Create listservs among the parents of different things that are coming in. Reach out to people at your job to see if there's internships, or if you know somebody that, you know how we do, I know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that got something going on. Let's reach out to them. I'm gonna send you to go live with your aunt for 2 weeks because she can expose you to X, Y, and Z. Just expose your child to anything and everything to get their mindset geared on going to college, being involved in what's going on in college, and helping them develop their community, their network, because they're going to need that network when they get finished, when they get out of school. That's going to help them to the next level.
Hey, Kelly, if I can just say one more thing to your question specifically, what can a parent do while the kid is in high school, the child is in high school? Find out what your child loves to do outside of, what do you want to do when you grow up or whatever. What do you love to do now? And find out if there's an educational path for that love that they have right now. Because you could say, I want to do this because I'm gonna make a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. I know people who've done that, who are not happy because they're not doing what they really love to do.
Right.
Find out what you love to do. For me, my parents didn't have to do that. I naturally gravitated toward it. I had a love for science and I had a love for music. And I followed both of those paths. But a lot of parents, I don't know, I don't know if they grasp what the child wants to do. Find out what the child loves to do, and then see if there's an educational path they can get, if they can go through college, and at the end of 4 or 5 years or however long, they can have this piece of paper, which is a degree. The degree just says, I'm good at this. I'm good at this, really good at this.
Right.
And somebody's willing to pay you good money because you are good at this thing. But if that thing that you're holding is what you love to do, like me, I had degrees in physics and degrees in engineering physics, and I work as the group leader of the electromagnetic compatibility test engineering group at Goddard Space Flight Center. I followed my love. So from love for electromagnetic energy to me being the group leader for the electromagnetic test engineering group, that's a path that was divine.
Amen.
Because it was built from, the foundation was love, not looking for money. But that's important to me, man. And that's what I stress for kids, even elementary. What do you love to do as a child? And follow that path all the way. You'll have a beautiful life and a beautiful career.
What's the expression? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
It's not work.
Right. That's excellent advice.
Thank you.
So my next question that's from the chat is, what do you say to a student that has to make a decision between an HBCU and a PWI because of money? It's often said that PWIs give more money.
Go to a HBCU. If it's worth it, I mean, again, for me, a lot of these questions aren't necessary. It's how you phrase the question. There's no difference technically between, I'm not saying technically, there's not a big difference between a Mercedes, a lot of people like Mercedes, and a Volkswagen. But you're going to pay more, you'll go into more debt to go and buy a Mercedes. Any HBCU, in my opinion, is better than go someplace where you're wanted, and it's not a question of whether or not you took somebody else's space. Why, if I can protect my children for that for 5 or 6 years, however long it takes, why wouldn't I want to protect my children from that type of thought? We all grow up in America. We're all used to dealing where we're not necessarily the majority. We're in situations where there's a question of whether or not we should be there. When you are at a HBCU, that question has been removed and you are able to figure out what you love, and you're exposed to so many different things. So you can know what it is that you love, and whether or not you know when you get to college, or you still trying to figure that out in an environment where you're able to figure it out. You're able to see people that are doing what you may want to do and speak to them. In terms of what I would tell somebody in high school now, go to a HBCU. Go during their homecoming. It's interesting. There's no question ever asked of whether or not you want to go to Michigan State or any of the other Big Ten schools. Going into college, I didn't play any team sports. And so I would always, including Kelly's husband, would always joke, you that tall, you don't play basketball, you don't play any sport. No, I didn't play no sports. But I went to a whole bunch of school with a whole bunch of other people that didn't play any other sports that looked just like me. But you get to see all of Black experience in America when you go to a homecoming and you get to see it. Just like if you good and you look at TV and they have it on TV when they have the football games at the Big Ten schools, you get to see that with people that look just like you. And when you're in that crowd, you'll see, oh, he's a lawyer, she's a doctor, he's a rocket scientist. And for Black children to see themselves, because a lot of times as when I look at some of my clients, I see myself, and that's a different, Kelly, you can speak to that. When you see a defendant and you say, well, wait a minute, he looks like my nephew.
Absolutely.
It's something in your mind that triggers, maybe he deserves a different chance. And it's being able to identify yourself in either somebody that's older than you and you want to follow a path that they follow, or if you're dealing with somebody that looks like you in terms of employment or doing business that looks like you, it makes a difference. But that's what I would say. One last thing I would add, you got to study abroad.
Well, that's a question in the chat, actually. They're asking, do HBCUs have study abroad programs?
I don't know of any that does not have one. So I think, yes, I would venture to say they all do. And I would, for my children, that's a requirement. Just like Bridget talked about, often when and I do a lot of travel. Often when I travel outside of the United States, I like to say, I get to see what the world really thinks of us, and it's normally very, very positive. And it's not what people would think. So absolutely, and all of my daughters have traveled internationally. My second oldest daughter, Grace, is attending Spelman. They've all been out of the country. All of them, except for the youngest one, have been to Africa. It's important so that they can see other people that look just like them doing things that you don't see typically in American, the media that we do. And every time I've traveled outside of the country, I've seen not a lot, but I've seen other people that look just like me and my family traveling. So study abroad is a definite.
Okay.
And I would say go to HBCU.
Can I say one thing, Kelly? Because I see a lot of questions around the financing, right? And PWIs, the assumption that PWIs are going to give more money. Maybe it's because it's a minority scholarship or they have more money to give than HBCUs. There isn't a university that doesn't have scholarships. So scholarships are scholarships. HBCUs have scholarships just like PWIs do. And like both Mark and I said, we both went on full rides to when we first started our universities. I think one of the differences for me when you talk about is the return on investment worth it? Is it, one person asked, is the debt worth it? You're going to have debt whether you go to a PWI or HBCU if you're not on scholarship. But I can tell you that my network is stronger than any person that came out of a PWI, and that's including whether you're Black or white. Because our network is stronger than just my FAMU network. My FAMU network is, strong. But you add the other HBCUs to that, and it's even stronger. I didn't know you, Kelly, but Casey said, Bridget, I need a favor. And that's my FAMU sister, so it's done. Like she didn't even have to ask twice. And I think there's something to be said about the fact that it's more than just that piece of paper. It's your ability to walk into rooms, have seat at a table in a room, to have a voice in a room, even when you're not presently there. And that is what HBCUs give you. And that's what your institution gives you when you come from a school like, Morgan State or FAMU or Spelman or Morehouse. We lift each other up. And so that ROI, that network, because let me be clear, I'm very blessed to have an engineering degree. But that's not what got me my jobs past a certain part of my career. It's who I know and how I did what I do that got me those jobs. And so to the point that, was being made about, he hires people coming out of Morehouse and Spelman, and he hires young Black men and women. Same thing for me. I'm on a mission to find young Black students who have an interest in conservation and environmental science because we don't have any. I need to build a diverse pipeline of people who look like me to carry on an agenda because I can't keep doing it by myself. So that is what the ROI is. It's a very long-lasting return on an investment that will continue to feed and sow into you that PWIs ain't gonna give you. I'm sorry. They will give you that paper, but they ain't gonna give you nothing else after that.
That is an amazing point. It really is. Thank you for that, Bridget. LaShawn, there's a question specifically for you, Dr. Washington Batts. Is Xavier the best school for someone who wants to pursue medicine or a medical career?
Well, Xavier is one of the top institutions that graduates people, African Americans, for medical school. Unfortunately, while I was there, I'm gonna be very honest, all of my time was spent in the pharmacy building. They have, they have different buildings for different, didn't even leave out of that building until it was time for me to go home. So I didn't really interact with a lot of the other students that were on campus. One, because I was older and I was a little bit more focused, because I knew I was paying for this degree myself and I needed to get in there and I needed to make sure that I graduated on time. So that was my main focus. And two, because all of my classes are in one building. But I do know that they have an extremely lucrative pipeline for those that graduate to go to med school. And a lot of the students that graduated with me and after me, they went on to help Hampton start their College of Pharmacy. There's a lot of Xavier graduates that went there to teach to help them build their pharmacy school. So it's interesting, as Bridget was saying, it's like it's an unseen network that is like a spider web, and it's catching everything and it's helping everybody get where they need to go. And it doesn't matter what school you went to. If they went to HBCU, I'm going to help them as much as I can, because it's all about this giant family that we have. I may have never been to FAMU, but I know several people that went to FAMU, and FAMU people are tight. They are very tight. Currently, I work at the FDA. I'm a regulatory project manager. And I've had a varying career in pharmacy, and that's one of the good things about pharmacy. You can do retail, hospital. There's a vast things you can do in pharmacy. But right now, I'm the happiest that I've been in my government job at the FDA, helping get generic drugs out there, because that's what I do. I work them through the approval process to help lower the drug costs for people. But I've worked with somebody from FAMU, several people when I worked at the VA hospital. The director there, he was from FAMU. There are other people that are there from HBCUs, and we often get together and do things. So you may think you're leaving a network, but you never really leave the network. The network follows you wherever you go. And it's a very close and tight network. So yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, that's great information. Thank you. Are you still? I'm sorry. Are you?
A very good experience. I'm here.
I'm sorry. Are you?
I'm finished.
Oh, I'm sorry. It looked like you were. I thought you were frozen for a second. Thank you.
Probably will.
That's
no
excellent. Anthony, there's one final question for you. There's a person in the chat who's interested in pursuing. She wants to be a civil rights attorney one day. What advice do you have for her?
Go to HBCU, and that'll give her the foundation that she needs going into law school. In going into law school in a nutshell teaches you a way of thinking to kind of interpret the legal language and the legal processes that we have in America. So I think that any law school that she goes to will prepare her for that. But the basis for that preparation, I think, would be, I think it's just better served at a HBCU, because every HBCU that you go to has a history that prepares you for a practice in civil rights law. And what I always tell people when they want to go to law school, to be quite frank, is keep your mind open to figure out what clicks with you. And sometimes you just kind of know. And if it's civil rights law, I think knowing history and having a great foundation in history will help you in the practice of civil rights law. I think the law is just, law is just one of those practices where you get better over time and you get better by doing. And at this point, I would say go into a lot of programs and get into as many experience in dealing with the community and dealing with all different types of people. And that will give you the knowledge that you need to practice civil rights law, because civil rights law specifically is about making sure that the government does what it's supposed to do for everyone. And it might be for someone that might have special needs. It might be in this climate for people that look like most of the people on this particular panel, and making sure that our rights are protected. But civil rights law is just so big, but it's really making sure that the government is doing what it's supposed to do. And I would say the foundation for that really starts with working with the community that doesn't necessarily get heard all of the time, or necessarily have the resources or knows how to navigate our system. So if you can start working on that now, going into law school, you'll be that much more prepared.
Thank you for that answer. So we have used up all of our time. We've actually gone over a little bit, but Carlene is not going to kill me, right? So before we go, I just want everybody, who's on the panel, I want to thank you very much, but can you just say, 25 to 30 seconds of parting words regarding HBCUs and, trying to encourage students? Start with Terrence, because you're at the top of my screen.
All right. Hampton University, I definitely go to HBCU. You won't get the history of knowing your people, of knowing the institutions that previous civil rights leaders have gone to. On the financial side as well, there are scholarships outside of the school. Go to United Negro College Fund. Do your research. The Black Caucus also offers scholarships as well. So definitely do your research on the financial side, and you won't regret your decision. It's going to be the best 4 years of your life. You're going to get to that network. You're going to be where you need to be prepared for the future. So HBCUs is definitely a way to go.
Thank you, Terrence. Bridget.
I will always promote Florida A&M University. However, every HBCU is a gem. And I just want to tell the students that, do not let anyone make you think that going to HBCU is going to be detrimental to your success. I had a counselor tell me that in high school, and I wish I could see her now, for her to look at me amongst the rest of the graduates of that program in high school and to see what the success lies, because the judge, the doctors, and the executive all came out of HBCUs, not the PWIs that she tried to push us to. So just be mindful that the success is within you, and that the magic is within you, and that what cultivates that is being around a foundation that will help you thrive, and that is within an HBCU.
Thank you. Dr. Washington Batts.
Definitely HBCU, Xavier graduate, Morgan State University graduate. Without both of those institutions, I personally don't feel as though I would be the person that I am today. They helped shape me and mold me and gave me every possible tool that I needed to be able to be successful. And I'm very thankful to them and my parents.
Thank you. Anthony Birch.
You already know the answer. HBCU should be the start of your adult life, both socially as well as academically, and have fun. I think college is a time for you to have fun and to explore who you need, who you are to become. So I would just say HBCU is the best place for you to figure out what it is that God intended you to be. And everybody's path is a little bit different. Sometimes it's a lot of difference, but you will be able to find people with like minds at an HBCU to help you on where you need to go.
Thank you. And Mark.
Yes, just piggybacking on what everybody said. My HBCU experience, again, was the best experience that I've had in my life. The best 4 years I've had in my life. If I had a chance to do it again, I would. I met lifelong friends, and my instructors prepared me thoroughly to compete with anyone in the world. It's a global experience. And I'm thankful that I made the choice to attend Morgan State University. I love it. And I still love it.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone. If you look at the comments in the panel, everyone was very, very, very appreciative and said it was an insightful discussion. You are eternally in my heart for taking out the time to do this today, but we're not done yet. I'm going to pass the mic to Lynette Shelbourne to talk to you about the census.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This was a very dynamic, inspiring, and informative session. I want to just say that thank you to all the panelists, guest participants, alums, everybody in. Whatever you said, I concur, because not only that, I am also a graduate of the HBCU, and I have to represent Wilberforce University, the first private HBCU in America. So excuse me for all the movement, but I had to rep my shirt and it's not showing. And I want to shout out to the president of that great university, President Alfred Anthony Pinkert. But I'm on here just with 2 minutes or less to just remind you all, those of us who are educated and informed citizens, there are 2 things we must do. And that is, we must vote and we must complete the census, the 2020 census. We know that to be so. There's a lot of feelings going on in regards to our people's thoughts about the government and so forth, but it is our US citizen right to do. And we want to be a part of the change that we want to see, no doubt. So I just want to say to you, for those of you who may not know, we don't know who's on the line, but an executive order issued by the governor allows all eligible primary voters to request an absentee ballot for the June 23rd, 2020 primary elections, and to help prevent the community spread of COVID-19. So we're able to participate in voting through an absentee ballot. What's important is that you can check the box temporary illness as the reason for the request. If you are affected by COVID-19 and or the potential of contracting the virus, you have a reason for why you're requesting an absentee ballot. You should have received this in the mail. I'm not sure how clear it is, which is your application to apply for the absentee ballot. I'm going to give you the website. If we're writing that down, please. www.elections.ny.gov/voting_absentee. And then there's another website that provides a lot of detailed information, and that is www.vote.nyc. The first link I provided will also allow you to download an application for an absentee ballot. 2 important dates to remember, and I will close on the topic of voting. That is June 16th is the last day to postmark an application or letter of application by mail or send an email or fax for an absentee ballot. June 22nd, last day to apply in person for an absentee ballot. So you have the website too, and you have the information I shared in regards to the deadlines. Finally, Census 2020, you can complete your census right now after we sign off from this event, and that is your 2020 census.gov. And you can complete your census on the spot. And I would ask that everyone on this call, I believe it's 106 showing right now, if you share this information, especially about the census, with 5 of your friends and or family, we will have accomplished 600 of us completing today if we had not already done so. So census, 2020 census, and complete your absentee ballot so that you can vote for the primary election. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynette. This is Dr. Robinson back. Wasn't that amazing? That panel was completely top notch. And I just want to say that do not let this conversation stop here. Continue talking about it. Talk about it with your friends. Talk about it with your parents. And if you have any questions, please reach out. Our email is akaepiothinkhbcu@gmail.com. Somebody is going to post it in our chat, but please, y'all, do not let it stop here. go to an HBCU, okay? Carlene, I'm gonna pass it over.
Good afternoon, everyone. I feel so emotional after this panel. The one thing that I said in my opening is that after hearing from this panel today, that you will see why, or you will get the point why HBCUs are still viable or are viable institutions. And after hearing from this amazing panel and their story, that came through loud and clear. The one thing that you can tell, or hopefully that you saw today, is that graduates of HBCUs, we are truly passionate about our universities. And the love and passion that we have for our universities comes through loud and clear. So we really hope that you enjoyed this panel today. Thank you all for coming. And I would like to say a big, big thank you to our panelists. You did an amazing job.
I'm putting the websites up.
Also, I added in the chat, and I'll add it again, a list of all the HBCUs. That document will give you the list of HBCUs and the websites to go and to see all the information about their particular university. So please use that as a tool to research, to understand HBCUs and what they can provide and all the resources that they have available. Also, as Rochelle said, if you have any questions after this panel or after this discussion, please email us. The email address is in the chat. Again, I'll add the list again in the chat for anyone who wants that information. We hope that you will take that tool away from you and use it and pass it on and share it and share it with everyone. Again, thank you for joining us. And again, like Rochelle said, don't let the discussion stop here. I will pass it on now to our Vice President, Ms. Kim Adams, to give closing remarks. Thank you again.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so excited for everything that I experienced with you today. As the Vice President of Programs, this is really hard to close out. But let me say this, panel and moderator, you all were stellar, absolutely stellar. To all of the participants on this call, the questions, the activity was stellar, and we thank you 100%. As I have to say, as someone who, I have a few thoughts, I wish years ago that I had been exposed to this kind of programming. So it makes me especially proud that we as Epsilon Pi Omega are presenting this program for you, educators, the people who are on this slide, students, so that you really have something to think about. And that is really the whole idea of educating you, helping you to see your options and to understand. So thank you for sharing all of these options. I want to say that a special thank you as well to our moderator, Ms. Kelly Muse Kirkland, our HBCU committee, the chairman and the committee who, when we first talked about doing something virtually, because this was supposed to be an in-person event, March 28th. But when our world flipped around so quickly and I mentioned, let's do it virtually, I just remember the call went silent. No one was talking for a moment. And I said, oh, I must have said something wrong, but I am so happy that they picked me up. They met the challenge. They came forward and they said, you know what? We're doing this. We're doing this. And bringing all of these wonderful panelists together, I really cannot thank you enough. I also would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to our amazing technology committee, our chairs who have helped us rise to the occasion and just lifted us as we move forward in seamlessly continuing programs for students, for families, for educators, for our village. So I really, really want to thank you all. Please answer any surveys that come your way. We want to continue to bring quality programming to our community, and let please, when you get that survey, let us know your thoughts. Don't discard it. Really, take a look at it and please answer it. Look for more activities. Thank you, thank you, thank you to all for participating, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a great way to start the
this
day.
afternoon.
No doubt.
Really appreciate you all. Thank you.